She thought she was safe inside those walls, serving quietly, unseen. But behind the polished doors of wealth, cruelty was waiting. A child's laughter turned into cries, and what should have been a sanctuary became a battlefield of power and prejudice. No one imagined who would walk in at that very moment, or how his choice would expose a truth far darker than family betrayal. Because this wasn't just about one house, it was about something much bigger. The only question is, what would you have done if you were him? For years, the mansion had been a world of silence for Amara and her little girl. She rose before dawn, ironing shirts that were never hers, scrubbing floors she'd never walk barefoot on, cooking meals she'd never taste. To the outside world, the family she worked for was perfect, wealthy, powerful, untouchable. But inside, there were cracks only the help could see. Her daughter, Maya, was the only light in those long days. Bright, curious, and full of laughter, she played in corners where she wouldn't disturb anyone. Amara told herself that as long as Maya was near, she could endure the whispered insults, the cold stares, the endless reminders that they didn't belong. What she never expected was how quickly that fragile balance would shatter. Because in this house, respect was never guaranteed. And one evening, when a master of the house returned earlier than planned, he would walk into a scene that no amount of money or power could excuse. The day had begun like any other. Amara folding clothes that weren't hers, Maya quietly coloring on the kitchen floor. But beneath the calm surface, there was always tension, the unspoken rule that they must remain invisible. The wife of the house, elegant in her pearls and polished smile, carried a cruelty that only surfaced when no one else was watching. To her, Amara was not a woman, not a mother, just the help. That afternoon, the mask slipped further than ever before. Maya had dropped a glass of water, nothing more, but in an instant, the air turned sharp. The wife's voice, laced with venom, sliced through the silence, her anger far greater than the tiny spill deserved. And then, it happened. What should have been nothing became everything. Her foot struck the child, a cruel kick meant to remind both mother and daughter of their place. Amara froze. Her body screamed to protect her daughter, to grab her and run, but years of dependency and fear chained her to the ground. Maya's cries echoed through the polished walls, bouncing off chandeliers and paintings that had never known struggle. The wife, calm again, brushed off the moment as though it were nothing, like kicking a child was just part of discipline. But what she didn't know was that her husband had come home early. His footsteps echoed through the marble hall, slow and steady, unaware of what he was about to witness. He had built his fortune on control, on keeping appearances spotless, but the scene he was about to walk into would stain everything. And here lies the question, what would a man with everything do when faced with a truth this ugly in his own home? Would he protect his wealth, his reputation, or would he finally choose what was right? The husband's footsteps stopped at the doorway, and for a split second, the world seemed to freeze. His eyes locked on the scene, his wife towering above a sobbing child. Amara bent low, her trembling hands trying to shield her daughter from another blow. For years, he had prided himself on discipline, order, and control. But nothing could have prepared him for this. A cruelty so raw it stripped the glamour from his mansion and exposed the ugliness at its core. The silence cracked when Maya's cry pierced the air again, pulling him forward. His gaze darted from his wife's furious face to the small, shivering child, and something inside him shifted. This was not a household quarrel. This was abuse, pure and undeniable. And worse, it carried the heavy weight of prejudice, the same shadow he had ignored for too long in his own home. His wife, startled to see him, forced a laugh, as if what he had witnessed was nothing. "She's fine," her expression said, but her eyes betrayed her, cold, defiant, unrepentant. The husband's chest tightened with rage. The empire he had built, the reputation he had guarded, none of it mattered in that instant. What mattered was the child on the floor, clutching her mother's arm, staring at him with wide, desperate eyes. Every second dragged like an eternity. He could look away, pretend it hadn't happened, protect his name. Or he could tear the mask from the life they had built and confront the truth. that silence made him complicit. And in that moment, with his heart pounding and the weight of generations pressing on his shoulders, he made a choice that would leave everyone in shock. The choice he made in that moment shattered the illusion of silence forever. He walked past his wife without a word, knelt beside Maya, and lifted her gently into his arms. The mansion's walls, once a prison of obedience, trembled with the weight of his decision. His wife's protests echoed down the hall, but this time they held no power. What mattered was the child, the mother, and the undeniable truth he had seen with his own eyes. For Amara, the moment was both terrifying and liberating. Years of swallowed pride, of enduring cruelty to survive, collapsed into a single act of courage. Someone had finally stood with her, not above her. But even as relief flooded in, the deeper wound remained. Why had it taken so long for the injustice to be seen? How many others still suffered unseen, unheard, because no one chose to speak? This was more than a family scandal. It was a mirror reflecting a society too comfortable with silence, too willing to look away until the pain is undeniable. What happened in that mansion wasn't rare. It was a chapter in a much larger story, one still being written in workplaces, schools, and homes across the world. And so the question lingers: when cruelty hides behind closed doors, when racism disguises itself as discipline, will we turn away to protect what we have, or will we finally choose to confront it? Because silence doesn't just protect the guilty, it destroys the innocent.